Yes, Laith, I'm ready, so let's begin. Flyboy, a film by Laith Sami. Dad smiles at them, nodding his head in agreement. Jon and Will run outside. Dad goes over to Granny, his mother, and kisses her head. He walks over to the fridge, opens the door, and retrieves a yogurt from within it. Opening it, he sits down in the chair previously occupied by Will. Granny smiles. Jon and Will run from the house, across the garden towards a go-kart they have transformed to look like a plane. They call it Car Plane. Jon rushes up and sits in the front of Car Plane. He removes the helmet and goggles that rest on the seat and puts both of them on. Jon gives Will a thumbs up. Will walks back a few paces to give him a short run up before he starts pushing Car Plane from behind. The land behind the house drops down into a downward slope. Will pushes as hard as he can, then lets go of the cart. Jon screams in joy as he steers Car Plane down the hill. Will looks at how Jon is going, then puts his arms out like he's flying too, and chases after his brother. Dad watches the two boys from the kitchen window. He smiles. Will and Jon are running around playing, chasing each other for the next turn on Car Plane. As they walk towards the house, beside them the sky darkens to night. Jon joins Will as they walk to their dad. They put Car Plane into the garage. Jon is a bit sad. Their dad smiles. Will and Jon look at each other and then look back to their dad and smile. The brothers don't need to be told twice. They run over, and their dad lifts them up one by one into the plane. Jon is lifted into the front seat. Once seated, their dad begins to show them what's what. We can't hear what they're saying to each other, but it's clear Jon is really getting into it. 11 years later. Will, now age 17, we hear the front door close after the brothers exit the house. Will and Jon leave the house, pulling the door closed behind them. As they walk away from the house, Jon notices that the barn door is open. He walks towards the barn. Will enters the barn where he finds Jon staring intensely at the plane. They both leave. Jon gives one last look over his shoulder at the plane. The look in his face says it all. He dreams of flying it. He smiles and exits, closing the barn door behind him. As Will and Jon leave the barn, they see the bus approaching. They both run for it. Will is in bed sleeping. The door to his room opens slowly. Jon enters and walks carefully over to Will's bed, trying not to cause any floorboards to creak. Reaching the bed, he gently shakes Will's shoulder. Jon and Will are pushing the plane out from the barn. When they maneuver it far enough away, Jon climbs up into the front seat of the plane. He looks at Will before putting on his goggles and helmet. Satisfied, he gives Will a thumbs up. Nodding in understanding, Will takes off the brakes from the plane's wheels. Gives Jon a thumbs up. Jon looks straight forward. Jon is ready to go. He pushes some buttons. The plane's propellers splutter into life. Then the wheels start to move. A light goes on inside the house. From an upstairs window, we see the figure of Dad appear and look out. A look of pure horror explodes across his face as he sees the scene in front of him. His figure disappears from the window. Will screams with delight as Jon navigates the plane into a takeoff position. The door of the house slams open and Dad runs out, waving his arms to get the brothers' attention. Will runs after the plane, keeping a safe distance as it picks up speed and begins to take off. He screams in joy. Jon has control of the plane. He looks behind him and gives Will a thumbs up and waves at his dad. Hearing his dad's voice, Will looks back at him, coming to a standstill, his face a picture of guilt and surprise. He looks at Jon in the air, flying like a bird. Moments later, Jon starts to lose control of the plane.